Evening, everybody. We are going to be doing some Cyberpunk 2077 tonight, but I do need to get set up. I have the tweets out, but it's always nice to take a look and see what the settings are. Okay. One of the reasons I'm a little gun shy when it comes to the various stream metrics is a couple of times we had instability, at least according to Twitch. I didn't actually see anything on the metrics that I get when I stream. But it's nice to get that dealt with off the top, simply because, okay. Basically, it's easy for me to cut a stream at the start, adjust the VPN, adjust the modem, whatever the case may be. Zerog, how you doing? Are you feeling under the weather, or is this just general well-wishing from the Lord of Flies? I realize it's a different entity, but I still think it fits. Okay, well, Twitch isn't telling me how good I'm doing, so let me just take a second here. Spectre. Says stable, so I'm going to run with the assumption. Okay, never mind. Another small hiccup to deal with. Okay, cool. There were a couple of downloads that popped up on the GOG launcher, but it looks like those are for Age of Wonders 4 and Emperor of the Fading Suns. Now, if either of those sound interesting to you, let me know, because I am considering some of the games that we will be playing. Been on a Warhammer binge. That's cool. Fantasy Battles is actually the only one that I have ever played, like on a tabletop. It feels like 40K has more video games. So I've played Battlefleet Gothic. I've played the various iterations of Dawn of War. I actually felt Dawn of War 3 was not treated that well by the fans. I thought it was an interesting RTS, and I do feel a bit bad that when people try to innovate in the RTS space, there is this, it feels that it's a particularly vulnerable genre to this, RTSs were like this when I was growing up, and I never want them to change. I just want them to have better graphics. I think, and I always wind up with some really annoying people who are like, MOBAs aren't RTSs. I'm like, yeah, they are. I get that it was a mod for Warcraft 3 originally. I understand that people are treating it as, its own genre now, but all of the distinctions that you will make between those things, like, it is a completely arbitrary line that people are drawing, and I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's unfair to say that the MOBA is probably one of the bigger and more dramatic things to have happened to the RTS genre. One thing that I thought might be interesting is that because auto chess or auto battlers or whatever they're being called, because those are descended from MOBAs, do those fall under RTSs? And I would be inclined to say no, because the level of automation is kind of a major factor, right? I think that is sufficiently different that you could sort of say that doesn't sort of fall within the broader umbrella. But I don't think it should be as controversial to say that MOBAs are a subset of, or most MOBAs anyway, are a subset of RTSs, insofar as genres mean anything, to be fair. But I mean, so the thing for me was, I thought number 3 had a very reasonable formula, and actually one that, in my opinion, kind of worked. I really enjoyed playing that game. where they sort of took this idea that, you know, gaming has not stayed static. This is the same stuff I say about Doom, right? Dawn of War 3 seemed to be premised on the idea that gaming has not stayed still since it, since the original Dawn of War came out. Tastes have changed. There have been improvements in terms of game design and just people's preferences. And Dawn of War 3 made an effort to try and move back from maybe a bit more of a sort of single or squad level perspective, which I can sort of understand why people may have resisted that, although I actually thought Dawn of War 2 was quite good. But still try and bring something new. And again, I like to see stuff like that rewarded. It wasn't, and in the end, it's not my place to tell people their tastes are wrong. You know, their tastes are their tastes. They may be good tastes, they may be bad tastes, they may be tastes that I don't share. But as Zarog says, you know, Dawn of War 3 did not find its audience, and any subsequent, any sort of post-release support was effectively abandoned. No DLC. Relic is now actually on its own. They bought themselves out from under Sega, which, you know, I think reflects a lot of trouble at Sega lately. Or maybe not trouble at Sega, but they've definitely been looking hard at some of their projects. So the Creative Assembly stuff has definitely been canceled. And I believe Amplitude actually is now also an independent entity. So they're the ones who had done Endless Space and Endless Legend. I used to be very fond of that company, but it is like, when I look in the background, I do see it's a little bit of a shame, because when you see all of these studios that are splitting off and doing their own thing, they are all the strategy studios. It's Sega used to be this really, like, who would have imagined, right? Like, Sega is the one that winds up being this really high quality publisher of strategy games, and now it's really Creative Assembly with the Total War series. But anyways, sorry, I'm babbling. But yeah, so with the exception of the big one, Total War Warhammer, it really does feel like the 40K setting has gotten more games overall, and so in terms of digital gaming, I'm a bit more familiar with the 40K setting, although the one that I played on tabletop was Fantasy Battles, and I had a nice time with it. It's obviously a very expensive hobby, so it's not something I could really stick with. And it's also just, there's the inherent problem of any physical game, which is you need to be located in sort of a region where you have other tabletop wargamers of, I don't know, roughly equal skill, or people you just generally get along with, and that's hard to do. I think you even see that reflected in board games being published. So a company like GMT Games has a whole like lunchtime series, and this is like a hardcore board game manufacturer. Like, not manufacturer, they do all their manufacturing in China, but like they are a hardcore strategy game publisher. They did Kickstarter before Kickstarter was a thing. They call it Project 500. If you look, they've got a series called Next War, which is, you know, about as close as you can get to sort of a tabletop simulation of modern military conflict. And that company, if you look at it and you know the history of strategy games, effectively seems to be a company that is built to address all of the things that made the major wargaming companies of sort of around the 70s go bankrupt. So like Project 500 is ensuring that there is enough demand for its product so that they're not putting a bunch of financial capital into something that can't be sold. The funny thing about board games, right, is that if you screw it up, if you misjudge demand, the like plastic and cardboard that you have is worth less than if it was blank. So like if you make an adaptation of Howard the Duck, the board game, the cardboard and plastic would be worth more as something without that branding on it than it would if you put it out. So far as I can tell, there was not a board game adaptation of that. I was just trying to think of like a old box office failure. But yeah, they and then a lot of solo, like a lot of bots for board games. So stuff like Labyrinth. I think Labyrinth's bot actually came out of the fact that they were concerned that players may not want to take the role of jihadists, which I thought was an interesting perspective. Like I'll play the Empire in in a Star Wars game. I'll play I'll play the bad guy because I don't see it as a I don't see it as necessarily glorifying or endorsing. These are fantasies, right? When I'm playing Doom, I'm not doing it because I really want to put a chainsaw to anything. Even a demon, I would probably be disinclined to using a chainsaw on. Anyways, but yeah. So again, because I know all of you are scholars of ancient board games, I don't know. It's just kind of a fun history to read because it sort of ties into what gaming eventually became. But yeah, if you look at if you look at the things that caused places like SPI and Avalon Hill to fail, and then you take a look at how GMT makes things, you really do get a sense that it is a company essentially designed as like a fortress against the stuff that made sort of the golden age of tabletop strategy fall apart. So, but in any case, I played Lizardmen for those of you who are curious about fantasy battles. I like Lizardmen. But when it comes to it, I don't know what it is. I guess it's probably the Grimdark thing. I probably don't need to think too heavily about it. Like, the Grimdark is probably what makes Warhammer 40k very distinct. Yeah. Huh. I actually should have a think about that one. Because it's not like fantasy... It's not like fantasy was untouched in early gaming. I guess Space Marine might have been the first... Or, sorry, Space Hulk might have been the first Games Workshop adaptation. I should check that. A little research project for me. Anyways, you've all been patient. Let's...
welcomes you to NCX, Night City International and Translunar. Don't wait. Leave your earthly worries, ulcers, and tumors behind, and take off for the stars. Taste truth.
Sorry, I'm enjoying my coffee. I'll be with you in a minute. Okay. Not going to the afterlife. I've decided where I kind of like walking around the city and seeing the sights, so I'd like to wrap up whatever gigs I can get. I believe there are new ones that you get at certain points in the over the course of playing the game. But yeah, for now, I'm going to settle for... Sorry, for now I'm going to settle for the remaining gigs, because they're hopefully short. Now, Zrog, I got a question for you, if you feel like answering. You said you're on a bit of a Warhammer kick right now. Do you have a favorite Warhammer, I'll say digital game, and is there a game genre that you think would fit, like the fantasy setting that hasn't been tried yet? Oh, this one.
Hey, V. How's things? Still alive? Hope so, because I got a new gig for you. You gotta clip a recording of a Maelstrom initiation. Want to know more? Check what I attached.
Okay, I keep bumping my microphones. I really should probably just get one of those sort of shock absorbers and proper stand. I've been working with a like a musical microphone stand. Okay, gig type thievery. Objective, steal a recording of Maelstrom's initiation rite. Daniel Street details. Got some paparazzo work for you. Need to get my hands on a recording of the Maelstrom initiation ceremony. TLDR, to get into the gang, you need to undergo an optic nerve split operation. A rite of passage of sorts. Footage of the whole thing. That's what I'm paying for. Got a tip, you can find such a reel at the Haven Med Clinic. It's a place where they put all the new recruits under the knife for the first time. Op rooms are all fitted with comms too. Could be a file, an entire disk, access to the servers, I don't care. What matters is that footage. Get it done. So the obvious first step will just be to take over the cameras and see what I can find. And I'm perfectly happy to use the ping to find new people, but I usually do that on sort of a second round. I'm not entirely clear if this guy's actually a threat. I should generally assume they all are, but okay. So we're gonna do a quick ping. So yeah, there's a couple that I missed. Okay, so I think we're in reasonably good shape in terms of being able to handle this without too much trouble. And in the worst case, oh, I already screwed it up. All right, you know what? Whoa! All right. I don't know what hit that. I hope that wasn't me that hit the thing. But yeah, that was a complete clown show. I should have even known that that camera was in there. So unfortunately, I don't think it saved my progress on the on tagging up the enemies. Didn't even save my progress to getting the mission. So lesson learned. That's on me. I tried. One thing I've sort of hinted at this idea, but I don't think I've ever stated it plainly. One thing when I talk about the idea of, you know, favorite Warhammer games and what ones you think would be most appropriate to, or, you know, genres that you haven't seen cover it yet. So a decent example of this might be something like Vermintide. Like Vermintide kind of feels like one of those games where on the surface, you know, first-person shooter, well, not exactly shooter, but like first-person Warhammer, why would I want that? You know, Left 4 Dead Warhammer, why would I want that? But it's really good. the thing that I think is kind of neat about Cyberpunk is that I don't necessarily think this style of RPG is inappropriate to it, but it's maybe not the obvious first.
Hey, V. How's things? Still alive? Hope so, because I got a new gig for you. You got a clever recording of a melt.
Oh, cool. I see your message here is wrong. Just 1 minute. Based on time spent playing your in your library, Dawn of War 2 is probably your favorite 40k game. For fantasy, Total War has done wonders. It's the reason why I was willing to learn more about the fantasy setting. A game style that I think would help fantasy that I haven't seen would be to try and make a Dynasty Warriors type game with it. I think that in the fantasy setting could do well there. Is Dynasty Warriors like a fighter? I may be thinking of the wrong series here.
Initiation. Want to know more? Check what I attached.
But yeah, so to the point. Sorry, I'm kind of crashing into your point here, but the I think one of the interesting things is, again, when you think of something like Vermintide, it's not necessarily something you'd write down on a wish list of uses of the Warhammer IP, and yet it's very effective. It's a pretty enjoyable game, and it's easy to see why, like in hindsight, how that game works and why it's so enjoyable to play. I think that might be it, but I want to just take another minute to... Nope. That's why we double check. But yeah, so in the case of Cyberpunk, like it doesn't feel like this genre is wrong for the setting. I actually think it works quite well. But I'm not entirely sure it's an obvious choice compared to some of the other things. And in fact, when you say an RPG, based on this somewhat famous IP, I think it might be reasonable to say that you could imagine something like, you could imagine something more like Baldur's Gate, because generally when we think of RPGs, we tend to think of those kinds of games now. But the other thing that I think is kind of neat is, while this is first person, I do still sort of believe that the most dominant strain present in Cyberpunk is actually, I feel like it's the... Sorry, I really shouldn't be distracted between... I'll finish the thought and then I'll do the hack. It really does feel like Grand Theft Auto, which I know I'm tirelessly say. But I actually also tend to think that even if it was more explicitly related to Grand Theft Auto, that would still be a pretty appropriate... there'd still be a pretty appropriate sort of transposition, because in the end, Cyberpunk, if you read the rule books, definitely focuses a lot on attitude and mood, and inside the game it has an instruction, don't play it if it's sunny. If it's sunny, go outside, right? This is the thing that's sort of meant to be played on like an overcast or a rainy day. And don't walk into a room when you can stride, that sort of stuff. Oh, fair enough. Yeah, my apologies, Rog. I'm not familiar with the series, but I had one in mind that I clearly I had one in mind that clearly was inappropriate. I definitely want to check that though. But no, I can see what you're saying with that, because it's sort of it's almost sort of like you could make that kind of game if you took Total War Warhammer and you just adjusted the parameters so that the base units were even larger and the hero units were proportionately increased in terms of their abilities, so you get these even more outsized effects of the hero state. Well, actually, I guess in retrospect, that kind of makes a little bit of sense in terms of the amount of time that you spent in Dawn of War 2 as well, because I feel that one's a bit hero-centric in terms of what they just how much of an anchor they are to all of the action. But yeah, so if you take those lines out of Cyberpunk, and then you map that to Grand Theft Auto 5, which I think if you're a company like CD Projekt Red and you need to make something, I'm sorry, I just pulled my headphones out. You're making something that is expected to be one of the largest, if not the largest, releases of that year. Grand Theft Auto 5 is a pretty good target to go for. That is a game that is still making tons of money today. Actually, just for my curiosity, I want to take a look at the Steam charts. Yeah, Rogue Traders showed up on my list. Funny. Oh, interesting. Normally Grand Theft Auto, like on the yearly summary, Grand Theft Auto is always like number one, it feels like. But it doesn't seem to be on the global top sellers right now. Still probably top 100 though. Although Red Dead Redemption 2 is even higher because of its 75% discount. Cool. My curiosity has been satisfied. But yeah, so in one sense, it's just a simple, this is what people want. We need to make a game that justifies all of this, I actually haven't played the re-release yet. I was worried for a little bit. I used to have my copy. Also, hello, Revive Snow. I used to have the I used to have it on the Epic Store, and it was hard for me to find the enhanced edition. So I thought I didn't get it through Epic. So I reinstalled it on Steam and then found it in the Epic library. I'm like, okay, whatever. It's like probably better to just have everything in one launcher anyway. Let me just take a quick second here and shout out Revive Snow. I actually also probably should have gone to the bathroom before I started the stream, so I'll see if I can make a bit of progress in the mission, but I may have to take a very small break. But for the Grand Theft Auto expert, look no further than Revive Snow. Now, I'll mention, I haven't actually seen Snow play... I haven't seen Snow play Grand Theft Auto recently, but is an absolutely wonderful streamer who's been doing a lot of stuff, including what looks like sort of an island city builder lately, which has been a real pleasure. But the only thing I meant to sort of bring up in terms of the Grand Theft Auto side is, in addition to the fact that it is a massively successful game, ages after it was released, it actually seems to fit rather well in terms of just like themes. Like the satire in Grand Theft Auto 5 still kind of holds up today in my view, right? It's, the obsession with fame and being an influencer and such. And I actually do kind of feel like the how do I put this? The fact that that game, like those ideas worked so well in that game, I don't think that was maybe the intention in terms of the emphasis that CD Projekt Red had put on something like on Cyberpunk, but I still sort of feel like it fits, if that makes sense. So in any case, I think they're a natural fit from like a commercial point of view in addition to a thematic point of view. But again, if you sort of think of like this very famous tabletop RPG, which has been adapted in setting at least to a famous card game by Richard Garfield called Netrunner, you can kind of it's maybe not so obvious. I imagine probably the argument that was being made at the time was that this would be sort of taking the mantle of Deus Ex, but I don't actually, personally, I don't feel as much Deus Ex in this as I do, Grand Theft Auto. So I do too. I'm quite hopeful for it. I do realize that GTA 6 is going to be it's going to be a big change because Les Benzies has moved on, founded his own company, Build a Rocket Boy. I don't think it's a coincidence that Mind's Eye is coming out roughly around the time we should probably be expecting Grand Theft Auto. From what I understand, it was not a happy split, and I have a feeling that there is some pretty bad blood between the companies at this point. So it is, I really don't like thinking this way, but it is kind of the question that people do wonder in the back of their head, right? Like, is there such a thing as like an essential genius behind these projects? Like, can Grand Theft Auto be Grand Theft Auto without Benzies? I think it can, right? I'm not a big auteur theory, game person, but I do think there are very few people who can pull off a Rockstar kind of game. And especially when it comes to the stuff like the satire, right? Like the quality of the writing and the tone are not necessarily things that, like, you can be someone who is very good on the production side. You can be somebody who's very talented in technical side. But a lot of that stuff is a question of taste. And especially when it comes to satire, like, bad taste is a risk. And like, sometimes you're just not funny. And that can be a risk. If you try to be funny and are not, it's crushing. So we'll see. Obviously, like I said, though, I'm quite hopeful. All right, so now I got to do the puzzle. So if we do 1C, 7A, 1C, the problem here is that I don't have a vertical for the 1C. So if I did 1C, 1C, 7A, if I did the 1C here, that would not give me an E9 to work with. Yeah, so 1C, 1C, 7A. So then I can get a 1C out of here, here, or here, but none of these have E9s. So I mean, I could do 1C, 1C, 7A, E9. Well, then I don't have the 7A. Oh, man, I really... You know what? Okay, so let's make some decisions now. And at this point, I can't do the E9. Actually, I'll also confess that I haven't been following that much of GTA 6, so I don't know. I don't know much about the characters or where it seems to be going. Like, I've seen a little bit. I kind of know a bit about the setting, but. Okay. I'm trying to decide if I want to take this guy out or not. Boring conversation anyway.
We've got problems!
Probably should have taken the time to reload earlier. Patient procedures. Phase 1, remove secondary craniofacial defects. 2, skeletal biosimulation. Flood resulting sinuses and prep for skeletal implants. Phase 3, jaw reconstruction. Grind for seams. Phase 4, implant installation system test. Phase 5, radiation treatment. Fish Cannery Clinic, lease extension. Gear Chap, Peterson & Associates, Donald Barry White, Asukaga, and Finch. Donnie, do these maelstromers of yours want to extend their lease of the clinic at the fish cannery? If so, the previous contract expires in a week. What do you say we both avoid some paperwork and get this done quick and easy? 10% bump for from last time plus extras. 10%? Sorry, Gear, but you're begging for paperwork with an offer like that. All right, let's see if we can do the E9 55 FF 1C. Yeah. So I've got more than one C option. I need a BD afterwards. So this one has at least hope. So BD 7, yeah. Hello, Jamie. How you doing tonight? I still cannot get over every time the Milfgard sound plays. It feels incredibly inappropriate, and I want like I just kind of want to mute the stream for a little bit. Oh, that's easy. I also think there's something kind of fun in at least a lot of these games, how hacking just generally feels like a bit of an overpowered ability. So like I could level my character up or modify them so that they they have enough strength to be able to force the door open, but it doesn't take a whole lot to be able to open the door with the hacking ability, and it doesn't cost a lot of RAM. I don't even know if there's a skill challenge to that. Let's see here. Yeah, it's 2 RAM, that's it. And like to a certain extent you'd sort of say, oh, shouldn't every path be equal in these games? Again, it's a single player game, so it's not like the game's going to complain that it's unfair. But it's just kind of a communication. It communicates that idea that's always been present inside of Cyberpunk, which is, the sort of the ascendancy of the people who work in that realm of ideas, which I think is kind of fun. Okay, so we would need a 55 7A 1C or a BD. Okay, works for me. So ideally I get a 55 1C BD out of this, which I do. By the way, I think I've told this story before. This is actually somebody who used to come by the stream, but I don't think they like me very much now. And I actually thought this was a really stupid, among many, stupid opinion of theirs. So now you get to see me just be gossipy and mean. But I still won't say the name because I'm not that mean. But there was someone who was talking about Grand Theft Auto and like what a bad game it was. So already this is a fairly uninteresting take, right? But actually, you know what? I'll get back to her in a minute. We have other things we can explore with. But what I thought was really funny was their opinion largely was, you know, it takes itself too seriously. It should be a funny satirical game like Saints Row. And I'm just thinking to myself as like, wait a minute. So the video game that literally has a bank security company called Group Sex, this was too subtle for you. Like this apparently is a game taking itself seriously, and it instead needs to be the parody of the parody, the pure cartoon of Saints Row, which is wonderful, right? I really enjoyed playing Saints Row when I played it. But just this idea that somehow there's a person who's like trying to make this, you know, intelligent opinion about Grand Theft Auto 5 being too serious of a game, right? This is their highbrow take. I was slightly embarrassed for them, but I did find it incredibly amusing. So I obviously do not consider Grand Theft Auto 5 to take itself seriously. And I think there's a lot of signs inside of the game to suggest. I guess the other one would be, it's like, do you actually think there's a stock index called the ball sack? Is it possible that maybe they're making a joke? A lot of the references to the housing market, dated reference, you know, it's been a while since the subprime mortgage crisis, but as I am a gentleman of a certain vintage, I was working at a bank. I just started at a bank roughly around the time the financial crisis hit, so maybe that's a little burned into my head, you know. But yeah, like, clearly, I don't feel it's that deeply embedded in the game, to say the least. All right, got a new guy. When you get an opening, same rate as usual. We'll have to wait for now. How long? Let him know. Let you know when I can squeeze him in and bring him in here clean. Had to detox the last guy first. Get your ass to heaven ASAP. We got a man. Got a man down. I'm in the clinic. Tell me what's wrong with him, and I'll get prepared. Got blasted by a nade up close, heavy bleeding, and fuck knows what else. Okay, I'm standing by. And I think we read cyberware usage and its effects. I wonder if this hurts. Nice. Ah, crap. I meant to hit tab, not F. So terrible by the standards of stealth, but we got through it. So it seems like there's another level to this, but let's just get the objective and see what else we can do. Okay, Operation Journal. Past 3 months, 6 optic nerve split ops, 2 with complications, 4 without. Case 1, nervous paralysis due to stimulus overload, vomiting, dizziness, epileptic fits. Case 2 complained of hyperspatial vision, lack of orientation adjustment led to irreversible damage to nerve tissue and blindness. Maelstrom hasn't complained. Operation Journal shooting in Watson. They brought in 2 guys today after a shootout in Watson. Getting all the flesh unsagged from their cyberware was like untangling my cable drawer. MS 150177, bullet wound to the head. Various abdominal injuries, severe hemorrhaging, died on the table. Death 8:54 p.m. DV 160177, bullet wounds to the head and chest, catalepsy in the case of DV due to unique nature of survival. I carried out a procedure approved by M. His body accepted the new implant after a series of radiation and immunosuppressant therapies, but he never regained consciousness. After 3 days observation, I terminated the experiment and removed the subject from life support. Death 1:27 p.m. Data received, now get out of there. Actually, one thing I'm trying to think of now is if there's any missions in here. So most of the time when you do some kind of like data exfiltration mission, you're usually transferring bits, and either the bits can be transmitted over your phone, or like just generally it's something that you yourself can store. I guess this is kind of like a Johnny Mnemonic situation where, you know, whatever hardware you have in yourself, you can transfer the data. But I kind of wonder if, in the case like, I can imagine situations even in the Cyberpunk world where you are dealing with data that is too large for like a person's hardware. And I'm trying to remember if there's any missions in here where you actually need to exfiltrate something like a drive. You know, I'm not asking for something like where you take a server rack and like just, you know, attach that to your backpack and like run or something. But oh, hello. So system collapse would be fun, but definitely will get noticed. I'll still take him out. I'll be clever about it. But there is, to that earlier point about sort of genres where these things live, there is kind of a side of me that wonders what the downright pleasure doing biz with you, V. Your work shows. Eddie's ought to show for it too. More gigs coming your way. There's a side of me that kind of wonders what a more traditional CRPG, I'm thinking the Baldur's Gate or the, you know, Rogue.
Got the data. Thanks, V. Gig closed.
I mean, I could just system collapse this guy if I want. Looks like I have to. Just let me... There we go. Combat with whomst. They towed my car. But yeah, so there's a side of me that kind of wonders what that would be like, but like as soon as I think that, I was like, well, did I not just get to enjoy 3 wonderful Cyberpunk or Shadowrun games? I can imagine different. So I like the Shadowrun games quite a bit, but I could actually imagine a sort of a top-down approach to cyber. Oh. Don't hurt my car. That's tougher than I thought. Quick, come back! What do we do when a merc takes a hot shit on the floor of our home? We put their head in a vise and slowly saw off the top of their skull with a blunt hacksaw. We take that piece, polish the bone, and make a candy dish out of it. As for the rest of the head, scoop out the brain, first come, first serve. Then we take turns shitting into the empty skull until it starts overflowing through the eye holes. That's what we do. Go get 'em. Apologies to those of you who are having dinner right now. All right. Why don't I have gigs? I do have gigs. One right here. So I have not needed to go to the bathroom any less since I said that. I feel like we've got a mission down, so I'm going to take a minute to at least get to the next location. I'll leave you with a question to ponder while I'm gone, but not so much a pondering question as just a curiosity. I was watching a long play the other day, I think I might have even mentioned this last week, of a Genesis Shadowrun game. And I found an interesting kind of, I guess, pedigree in terms of, oh, this might be the, no, this isn't, I don't think, but yeah, so I'm curious if anybody has seen or heard of the Genesis Shadowrun, and if you have any opinions on it. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it, I don't think, but I am a little curious. But I do need to relieve myself. I'll probably take a minute. I don't know, make a tea or something like that as well. I don't want to make it like a super long break, but I might as well take the opportunity to just try and combine it all in one go. So I will see you all in a little bit. And for those of you who've been here since the start, or for those of you who just want to do something other than look at the ads, feel free to get up, have a stretch, take care of yourself, or otherwise not be advertised to. I will be back as soon as I can. Okay, sorry for the wait, but thank you all for your patience. Let's jump back in. I'm just gonna wait for it to. All right, there we go. So this one, I seem to remember I turn into.
Got a gig for you. One I'd rather not have. Bryce Stone, preacher on TV. His son was brutally murdered. Only way to catch this child killer is to get your hands on the original BD that recorded the whole thing. Yeah, you heard that right, unfortunately. More info attached.
All right. Thievery get the raw BD of the murder of Bryce Stone's son. Buildings off Shipyard Way. My good friend, the televangelist Bryce Stone. Don't ask, it's complicated, needs our help. His little boy was kidnapped and brutally murdered a few days later. The NCPD dropped the case due to lack of evidence. Bryce decided to take matters into his own hands and found the BD scroll of his murder. But the Virtue's heavily edited, meaning there aren't a lot of clues to go on. If you could get your hands on the raw cut, there's a chance we could identify the murderer. The Virtue was put out by 2 XBD tuners, Gottfried and Friedrich on Northside. Just betting they still have the original somewhere. Just watch out for the Maelstromers that are guarding them. Alright, that's not what I meant to do, but... So this one I think normally turns into a bit of a gunfight.
And his doll sitting in their high castle giving me some orders like I'm some dog? No whiting now, will ya? Eddie's a legit. Whoa, so this the be-all and end-all in Night City now? Don't like it, take it up with Royce. Why don't I just short-circuit myself while I'm at it? Ah!
I can obviously hear the camera, but can't see it to take it out. Or apparently I can. There's a side of me that kind of just wants to turn these on, but I don't think I'd control them. Feeling alone tonight and kinky, women, men, agender or fluid, we've got someone for you. We're as naughty as we are sexy. You're just one easy order away from living out your dirtiest fantasy. Check out our Double Trouble Genitals, Animalia, Tails, Scales, and more. Neural libido stimulants, and that's just the start. What are you waiting for? Contact us. Sorry. Question mark. What are you waiting for? Contact us now and take your pick of the hottest tale in town. Are you ready to get wild? Winky face. Whatever. Tom Arnold to Olivia Perez. I'm so fucking over this. You have no idea. I don't want to do anything, and I mean nothing. Don't want to crack skulls, get wild at a party, like nothing. Like something just switched off in my head. I'm just stuck here with all these BD losers. You know, that father Sandio. He calls his dad Papa. Like, what the actual fuck? And I'm wondering if they, why they even fucking bother. They're sitting on piles of Eurodollars, and they don't need to do anything, and they're still tuning snuff all day. Like, what WTF, right? All right, so someone's staring right at the door. Probably not a wise decision to go out that way. Don't mind me, just out for a casual stroll. Gottfried Person, sorry, I keep banging that. Do what you want. Lenny Nero, I will, I quit. So we've talked about this before, but Lenny Nero is the main character in a really good, I'd say, cyberpunk story, written and produced by James Cameron, directed by Catherine Bigelow, who really feels like she was in the wilderness for such a long time, then made The Hurt Locker, and finally kind of seems to have, like, actually gotten the level of respect equal to her talent. But anyways, if you haven't seen it, definitely recommend checking out Strange Days, especially if you like cyberpunk stuff. One more time, do what you want, or do you need my permission or my advice? Sorry, cadets, or excuse me, you're taking things way too far. What you're doing is insane, and dragging your son into it, I mean, that's fucking sick. This can, only end badly. Now you've got the eddies. Hope you can afford that guilty conscience of yours. Gotti, at least leave Friedrich out of this. Seriously. Worry about yourself, Lenny. Now, what's kind of interesting about this one is that it's interesting to see the reference to Lenny Nero in Cyberpunk, but the character in this game is actually very different from the one in Strange Days. I'll sort of let the character development in that film speak for itself. I think generally we're overly sensitive to spoilers, but I don't want to. The question is always: is there some value add to talking more frankly about the the product? And in this case, oh, damn it! I got caught by the whatever was on the So because there's a couple snipers up there, I do want to be a bit careful. All right. It's Maelstrom, so I don't exactly feel bad killing him. Oh no! There's a body after the gunshots. I mean, I just might do boring conversation anyway and go in guns blazing, but...
Come on, show yourself!
That wasn't what I intended to do. Was it Seraph? I thought I was using Her Majesty, but... Oh, this looks familiar. Anyway, so the Lenny Nero character, quite famously at the start of the film, doesn't deal in what he calls blackjack, which is the snuff stuff. So I guess it would be XBD in this game. Whereas he I mean, he's kind of this loathsome character still, but in the case of Cyberpunk, it definitely feels like they somewhat aggressively pursue his less less desirable traits in a way that maybe Strange Days doesn't. I think I'm just going to throw caution to the wind on this one. Whereas I believe in this one, in this Cyberpunk game, he's where you get some of the nastier stuff. I think he has some redeeming qualities, but he's quite a different character from the one in Strange Days, which I'm trying to figure out how I feel about in general, because I don't necessarily feel like, so to a certain extent, if you're going to make a reference to a character from another film, like that's intended for some sort of recognition, right? But generally, I also sort of feel like there should be some meaning behind that. Because I guess maybe the thing that I'm trying to avoid is having certain character names becoming sort of like hello fellow kids kind of references. And I don't know, like I don't get too worked up by it, but it always sort of feels like, I think actually the reason why I feel this way about it is when I think about the way we tend to talk about a lot of media that we like now. I remember being kind of discouraged in Kilgore's chat because I know quite a bit about Stanley Kubrick. Well, I think it's fair to say I know quite a bit about movies in general, but Stanley Kubrick in particular, because he's been a very long time favorite. And there was a period of time where I could claim to have read every book, at least in English, about him. And I notice that it is much more common now to hear from people some variation on, yeah, well, I can Google too, or yeah, I can see the wiki as well. And, like, I don't, just maybe to be clear, like I'm not exactly looking for someone to, bow down and worship, the great knower of Stanley Kubrick facts, may I kiss your feet, sir. That's obviously silly. But there is definitely sort of a devaluing of knowledge, like something that you put effort into understanding. And again, this is not exactly a new thing, right? This is, Nick Carr with is Google making us stupid, or a lot of the complaints about LLMs today. There's a few different ways that you can see a variation of this argument.
Right before he gets...
What do you think? Else it'll feel like stabbing a pillow.
Wakey, wakey, gentlemen.
What's happening? Security!
Too far away to hear us. Well, let's not do anything rash here. We just tune and sell. We don't scroll. Honest to God.
Got a little family affair going here, huh?
People want to buy, so we sell. Business is business.
Looking for something in particular?
If it wasn't us, there'd be someone else.
You want to see something really hardcore?
Freddy! We just supply what Night City demands. That's all.
XPD of a preacher's little boy. Murdered. Ring any bells?
Which preacher?
I just got a fresh batch with boys. No clue who their daddies are. Gonna need more.
Bryce Stone, circuit rider on News 54. Son was Bobby Stone, 12 years old when he died.
Are we talking black, white, Chicano? Any identifying marks? Style of execution?
Papa? I think I know the one he wants. BD 9430.
Preacher's boy. Who murdered him? Who gave you the XPD?
Nobody gives us anything. They leave dead drops. We just go pick them up. Keeps things secure for everyone involved.
XPD was raw when you got it. Must have noticed something in the background, some kind of clue. Reflection in the mirror, tattoo, anything.
Our only concern is with imperfections, not who makes them.
Kindly hand it the fuck over. Now.
All right, please, just relax.
Just take it.
Freddy! Sir, it's just behind us on the shelf.
BD 9430.
That's it. That's the one. Just take it. I won't tell anyone you're here. We swear.
So I had an option of going in this way the whole time. Yeah, might as well get the car. Oh.
Fuck me, what is it now?
Why do I gotta...
Sorry. You know what? Let's just take a minute here and see if I can fix this. All right. I seem to remember there was an encounter where I'm pretty sure I wound up killing them at some point previously. Just want to deposit the job item.
Great work, B. Let's hope it helps trace the motherfucker who scrolled the thing. Gig's closed.
All right. So unless I'm this is still probably Regina. There is a fun quote. I think this was, so I believe this is Shams Jorjani, who I think is now at Arrowhead, the Helldivers studio. But it was used in Surviving Mars, which says, you know, how do you know it's science fiction? VR is commercially viable. And yeah, Braindance is always kind of a, for me at least, it's, oops. I thought that building was on fire, but I think that's the sunset. But yeah, one of the things I find kind of funny about this is that stuff like Braindance is probably one of the most identifiable cyberpunk ideas, right? Whether you're jacking to the Matrix or you're working with. By the way, I still like react to those cars. I know I don't need to do them, but it's a trained response at this point. But yeah, so the whole idea of some sort of like virtual reality entertainment.
V, got a rat problem on my block. Who doesn't, right? Thing is, these rats are human-sized. Look just like tiger claws, too. Biggest one is a certain Taki Kenmochi. So do your fixer a solid and neutralize her ass, will ya? Deeds attached.
Gun for hire, Taki Kenmochi, residence building at Cortez and Kennedy Street. Details. I got a place at this block in Kabuki. Not many know about it. Welcome to the club, and I prefer to keep it that way. Problem is a certain tiger cunt and friends set up a pachinko operation right on my fucking doorstep. Could mean trouble for me down the road. Let me guess, you're thinking it's better to hide in plain sight. Yeah, fuck that. When, not if, the NCPD cracks down on those pachinko machines, I know they're going to poke their ugly pig noses around in my backyard. Can't risk them seeing something they shouldn't. We can't sit on this. Head to the residential block where a tiger by the name of Taki Kenmachi is running this pachinko show. Deal with her. Any other tigers in the area will get the message and peace out quick. But yeah, so the one sort of recognizable tech out of Cyberpunk is also the one, despite it being, I guess like Cyberpunk's probably about 40 years old now. And the one recognizable technology is one that still isn't really viable today. We clearly have VR, and Metaverse, at least for a while, was a big deal. I mean, a major tech company did rename itself around the concept, but ultimately, it just doesn't seem, the closest we seem to have got to sort of a mainstream application would be something like the Apple Vision, but obviously it's very expensive, and I don't think anybody would say that product's, taken off. So I can system crash this guy if I have to, but probably easier for me to distract. Let them have a mattress. I don't know if anybody saw the demo for that when it came out, but I had very mixed feelings. I'm usually warmly disposed to Apple products in a lot of cases, but I remember seeing, I think specifically what I remember about that was there was that image of somebody watching a movie on like what would be sort of the world's biggest screen outdoors at night, and I remember being really impressed by that, followed immediately by the feeling like, wait, is my experience of the outdoors now going to be like sitting in an apartment you're sitting in an apartment like watching it on my virtual headset. I'm not actually going to be outside anymore. So complicated feelings, let's say. You find it very uncomfortable? Oh yeah, well actually, sorry, I shouldn't even speculate on this point because you do so much VR stuff. I have so I did something kind of like Golf with Friends, I guess. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was like a virtual reality golf game. and it was enjoyable. Like I enjoyed what I experienced of it, and I definitely understand that there is there's like killer app problem, right? Where VR is only going to be as good as what people develop for it. And from what I understand, like there's like a couple killer apps. So I think like Beat Saber is kind of considered to be a really high quality title. And then of course Half-Life Alyx. But it's sort of like, I guess this is the question people are asking about for the Switch 2 now, is at what point, like what is the limit when it comes to entertainment products? How much are you going to spend to be able to experience a limited number of titles? In the case, like Nintendo is the proof that you can actually really successfully do this. I think anybody considers the Nintendo products to be state of the art in terms of hardware. But I think a lot of people see a lot of value in the games that they produce, that they have always been able to compete on their IP. And in two senses, like one, it's the only place where you get to play Mario and, Metroid and Zelda and all of those properties. And I mean, I'm obviously only giving a subset. They've got a really deep bench as far as that's concerned. But also just in terms of the individual games, they are just sort of a level of quality far and above. Like Nintendo really does seem to have managed to, define itself through sort of this really unique experience, this sort of one of a kind sort of product. So in the end, people are willing to buy, so like to a certain extent, somebody who already owns like a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X is willing to buy a whole other gaming console because the offerings are so compelling. But one of the things that's been nice about a lot of the Nintendo stuff for a while has been that you're not sort of paying equivalent to a full-on like high-end console. And from what I understand, a lot of this stuff is more costly, and not just like inflation more costly. Like it does seem to be sort of comparable to some of these other premium consoles. And again, I think it is somewhat Nintendo's ethos to avoid going for the technological cutting edge. I'm trying to remember the book. I think it might be A Beautiful Constraint. Let me actually just take a minute to see if I can find this example. But I'm pretty sure there is a story about Nintendo being financially constrained in terms of making certain hardware. And should maybe just buy the book, to be honest. Oh, hang on, it's Wiley. Just give me a second here, actually. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I have a feeling I might be able to bring this book up. This is admittedly taking a while to load. All right, sadly, it does not appear that the index contains a Nintendo example, but I'm pretty sure I had heard at some point that some of Nintendo's earliest successes were the product of very limited budgets and somebody who really enjoyed sort of tinkering with tech, and that this has sort of translated into... It's funny when you look at Nintendo, like they have a very unique way of operating that still does not seem to be understood by a lot of its shareholders. So when it was sort of in the wilderness a bit with the Wii U and the 3DS, two not very successful consoles, there was like this real drive. It's worth remembering at the same time, like Apple was really eating Nintendo's lunch. The whole idea of sort of less technically sophisticated games on smartphones was really taking over. And of course, it seemed to a certain extent that this was just another form of disruption that the smartphone was happening. So it's for the same reason that people don't necessarily walk around with, small Canon cameras anymore. I mean, those things still sell, but in general, people are perfectly happy to use their phones, and very often you will see phones competing on the quality of the images that they can produce now. There was a reasonable feeling that, the App Store and the Google Play Store would be the next place where the customer for Nintendo's products would go. And then they kind of come out with something like the Switch. But prior to the Switch, which is obviously a massively successful console, you were constantly hearing shareholders demand that Apple do what Sega did, effectively exit the hardware business and just translate the value of that IP into products that were being sold on other hardware. And Apple, to its credit, stuck to its guns, and I think most people are kind of happy with it. The question I always have about this stuff would be, if Nintendo decided to get out of the hardware game, would we have the kinds of games that we really like from them? Because again, if you consider the problems that its designers are facing, they need to make experiences that are worth buying a Nintendo console for, without necessarily having to rely on state-of-the-art hardware. So, it would be unreasonable to expect a new Metroid to be like Doom: The Dark Ages. But the other advantage to that is that Nintendo does not necessarily need to put their R&D into, advancing their tooling to be able to produce something like Doom: The Dark Ages, right? So like the companies that are equipped to do that that is actually shrinking. So CD Projekt Red is not maintaining the Red engine except to continue supporting the existing titles. They've switched to Unreal. 11-bit, right, with Frostpunk, they're using Unreal. EA is still maintaining Frostbite, but in the case of Respawn, which is certainly generating a lot of revenue for them, they're using Unreal. And actually, in the case of Apex, weirdly, they're still also using the Source engine. And then, Bethesda's now at Microsoft, so they're maintaining the id Tech engine, which is being used not just in the Wolfenstein and Doom games, but that was also used in Indiana Jones. And then Ubisoft. And Ubisoft actually kind of has they don't really maintain one, they have a few. So I think Dunia for Far Cry, I think they call it Anvil Next now for Assassin's Creed. Snowdrop for a few of their like Tom Clancy thing. But yeah, they've kind of like got a little collection for them. For most people, quite sensibly, they're just farming that out to Unity or Unreal, and they're focusing on making the games. But yeah, in the case of something like Nintendo, and I believe Nintendo still has support, or Unity still supports the Switch too, but on their side, they need to, they'll want to have the R&D enough to be able to have good games perform well on their lower end hardware, but the focus really is on that gameplay. And I have to imagine that if all of a sudden you sort of decouple that limitation, that now you've got the Legend of Zelda team, which has access, Unreal Engine 5, let's say, and they can put the same system requirements as Doom: The Dark Ages. Are you going to see the sort of, crafting experiences that were in Tears of the Kingdom? Or are you going to see everybody kind of competing for that same territory in terms of, creating big fantasy open worlds and such? So I don't know. I don't know why I bothered to go on the big Nintendo rant, but here we are. Hey, opportunity knocks, Choom. Tony's out of the biz. You hear? Got thrown off a building. Some unpaid debt. Exactly. Didn't pay off his pachinko machines. Now's our chance to paint the pavement with our blood. No, listen. We can buy those machines at half from Bill the Clown. No way to enter the biz with him if I were you. And I'd get smart if I were you. You plan to jack yourself off to death? Dead and living with your output? At least she won't push me off a roof. Stop. I'm not fucking around. We're taking those pachinko machines and setting them up here in the block. Then we earn big. The end. There's no way this goes wrong. Whatever you say. Okay. I don't know if I can... Yeah. Transport's outside. I could have tried distracting him, but it's just faster. Priorities. Ah, right. It was worth trying. I will confess, I have not played Witcher 3, but I do get the references to some of the glitches with Roach inside of this, and I do find them rather charming. It's also kind of funny because I remember one of my early... I don't know if I would be fair to call it a gripe with the game, but definitely one thing I wasn't 100% sure how I felt about was I felt that Cyberpunk was relying a little bit too much on, hey, we made The Witcher, that game you like. Well, we're going to remind you a whole lot. So, you've got Roach Racer, you've got Nilfgaard, you've got, a few examples of that. But I don't know. At least this is kind of fun to play, and it keeps you with it because it mocks you for not hitting number 1 until you do. I tend to wind up on good runs that I then throw away with really boneheaded moves, so I'm not super hopeful, but we'll see. I did also find out an interesting detail. I don't think I will ever get a chance to see it in my life, but did you know that there is a museum of Soviet arcade machines in Moscow? And apparently so its origin, I think this is just from the Wikipedia page, but apparently its origin comes from a couple of Russians talking about I think it was like called Sea Battle or something like that. But they were sort of kind of waxing nostalgic about this title and then wondering if they could somehow get a copy of it. Because like obviously there's not exactly going to be a massive Soviet era arcade machine preservation effort. And so apparently they literally went to landfills to find it, and I think they were able to assemble one off of the parts of 3 different arcade cabinets. And apparently that eventually became this this museum of Soviet era arcade machines. Obviously, it has more than the one now, but... I'll confess, it would be kind of interesting. I liked... I realize Apple TV Plus is the last streaming service that I think people are going to be familiar with, but they did do the Tetris adaptation. Adaptation, biopic, or whatever we call it. It's not like... If you want accuracy, that's not the one to go for. Like, I don't know a whole lot about the story of the Tetris rights, but I'm pretty sure, Nintendo's, legal chief, was not part of the like car chase with the KGB, with the rights in tow. So it's it's a movie. It's a specifically designed to entertain in a very specific way. But I thought it was really charming, and I thought on like the central point of it being sort of this, two people on either side of the Cold War, sort of bonding over their love of programming and games, and this great appreciation for this, for this creation. I think that part works really well. I think, I guess the point I like to make, I talked about this movie, I think I talked about it last stream, but there's a movie produced by, Tom Cruise is one of the producers on it, actually. It's a Cruise Wagner production. But it's called Narc. It came out around the same time as Training Day. And Training Day got the Oscars. It got a lot of it. Damn it. So it's kind of... There we go. But yeah, it came out at the same time as Training Day. And like Training Day really highlighted... Well, one, it's star power. and then 2, it made this big point about being like shot in real, really rough parts of LA, and it's the true story of the streets and such. And the thing is, like, I don't think it's a terrible movie, but it does kind of strike me as a very standard kind of story. Like, it's a good and evil tale. Good triumphs, evil is punished. It's quite...
My, what a big rat you brought me. Bit surprised you didn't put her out of her misery. Well, at least the vermin's off the street. Gig shut and closed.
It's, again, it's a passable film, but this idea of it being, true to life, I guess when I sort of think of life, it tends to involve a certain degree of complexity. In general, I found that if you are trying to think about real world things and you have these very clear dividing lines of good and evil, you're probably not really getting to the, I don't know, quote unquote truth of the matter. I mean, there's always exceptions to that. Like sometimes the moral clarity is there because it is something really genuinely bad, but I think more often than not there's probably a bit more nuance than we want to admit in some things, which is one of the reasons why we very often behave abominably in situations where after some reflection, maybe we would have behaved differently. So again, around the same time that movie came out, there was this movie called Narc, which takes place, I think, in Detroit. They had one day of location, or maybe not one day, but like a very small period of location shooting. A small period of location shooting in Detroit, and the rest of it was shot in Toronto. Sorry, I gotta sneeze. But my experience of it was that while I had that same sort of moral certainty while watching the movie, by the end of the movie, there were sort of some revelations that left me feeling very different about the characters and what had happened. And I definitely thought it was a much more interesting film for that, because it didn't give me a simple place to rest. It didn't give me a simple place to sort of draw lines and feel morally superior to people. And so while it was a movie with a small enough budget that they felt that they couldn't they couldn't shoot on location, or they couldn't do a lot of the quote unquote truth stuff that Training Day sold itself for. I thought in terms of the material that it was dealing with and what I felt by the end of it, I definitely felt that it maybe got to something a little more true in terms of the ideas. And
got a Soviet fixer in town. My client wants to show some hospitality. Get to know our unexpected guest. Go to the port in Kabuki, pop a GPS on our comrade's ride. Car came with him all the way from the USSR. More info attached.
All right. Agent Saboteur placed GPS tracker on Mikhail Akulov's car. When a top Soviet fixer, Mikhail Akulov, landed in NC, it generated a lot of buzz in the biz. So far, says he's just in town to cut a small-time deal. The USSR's premier fixer in town to personally handle minor league gigs at any stakes? Yeah, can't say I'm convinced either. So what's his game? Why Night City? My client needs answers to these questions and more. They want you to follow his every step on NC soil, and that's why you need to plant a GPS transmitter on our dear comrade's car and keep it quiet and clean. Anyways, let me wrap up the thought, and then we can do the mission proper. So, I like using that example. I know I give that one a lot, but I think it's kind of important because I could sit down and I could sort of wag my finger at... actually, this is the contrast that I'll draw. So I could sit down and wag my finger at Narc for whatever failings it has in terms of, truth in terms of actually shooting on locations and that. But I actually don't feel that any of those materials are necessary for the content that really matters, right? The story and the reasons why, we feel a certain way when we hear the story of Oedipus or Oedipus. I can't remember the correct pronunciation. Or, why when we talk about some of our favorite, or, Blade Runner, right? If I want to keep on the cyberpunk track, some of the things that we feel about what it means to be human, if we create something with sentience, what are our responsibilities to it? Those kinds of questions. Blade Runner takes place in a world that will probably never exist. It takes place, it's the product of a really weird science fiction author's imaginings in a novel, which were then adapted by Hampton Francher, which were then realized by Ridley Scott and the team behind it. But there are things that are communicated about us that ring true, right? And that's the stuff that we go and watch movies for. Hopefully we can get to a point where these are reasons we play games, right? This is why I like the Weather Factory games so much, because I think they're getting closer to that sort of territory in terms of storytelling. And likewise, in the case of Narc, two very similar corrupt cop stories. And yet I definitely felt that Narc, despite having its smaller budget, it's not absent of star power, like Jason Patric and Ray Liotta were in it. So, but it didn't win an Academy Award, and it didn't, it didn't have the benefit of sort of claiming that it was in neighborhoods which are traditionally not shot in because of the kind of the gang affiliations and such. And to a certain extent, right, like it's, maybe for what it's worth, in Canada, I worked on a TV show, and I can tell you for sure that they were on the downtown east side, and that the people in the background were not paid extras. I'm sure they were paid something for being there, but was my department. But like those were people who were genuinely living on the streets. And for those of you that aren't familiar with Canada, like the downtown east side in Vancouver is, if not the poorest, at the very least one of the poorest postal codes in the country. Like it is not regarded as a particularly good place. But you don't see Academy Awards for that TV series that I was working on, right? So it's nice to have, and there can be some value in it, but it's maybe further away from the things that we consider essential to good storytelling and the reasons why we pursue these kinds of stories. So when it comes to bring it back to the Tetris movie, I'm less bothered by the factual inaccuracy of whether or not, the Nintendo and Tetris people were, chased to the airport by the KGB. Like clearly that didn't happen, and there are so many other ways of stopping people from leaving the country if they want to avoid something like that. But when I consider the essential qualities of that story, sort of entrepreneurship and innovation, creation, bonding over creations, and to a certain extent too, like I do kind of like the fact that at least one of the characters is motivated by money. Like, so the character of Hank is, in terms of his motivations, he's the same as everyone else pursuing this valuable thing, right? The Russians want it, the British want it, everybody wants it for its monetary value. And yet, out of all of the suitors, Hank is the one who has sort of this appreciation for the product and the process through which it was realized. And so you can, to me, and maybe I'm just being a hypocrite on this, but like, to me, you can have the silliness of the Nintendo lawyer as part of a car chase in Moscow on the way to the airport to escape with the rights to Tetris. And still have that be a story that rings true to me, simply because I think that core story about this bonding between these two these two creators, one that still, survives today, right? Tetris Effect was wonderful, and we have another one coming out reasonably soon, I think. It's that's the reason why we care about that story, and on that front, they told it very well. Now, why I brought this up, I'm trying to remember, but I know I was talking about the Tetris movie, but I think there was supposed to be a point that I had made about it for Cyberpunk, but I will leave it there. If you get a chance, definitely check out the Tetris movie, though. Is it really that easy? So clearly I gotta turn this off. All right, so if I can get goodies, I will take the opportunity, but not at the risk of blowing the mission. I think that's the target. I don't need to say I think. Clearly it's big and yellow. It's what I'm looking for. Okay, so we're gonna do a ping.
Your attention first, then they spill all the lame details later. Can't believe everything you see on TV.
Oh, come on. That's handy. Okay, I think that gives me a fighting chance. I know there's some rather precious goodies the more I'm willing to go off the beaten path. I didn't know you could jack into these things. 255s. 7A 55. I don't have the 55, sadly. FF 7A1C. I probably already saved after doing the hacking. So that gentleman's going to be a bit of a problem, but I think we can get around. Ooh, missed him. Okay, so if he doesn't turn around, the sniper that is, I'm definitely gonna have problems. Oh, that's... Ooh, boy! Okay, so I'm kind of trapped in the corner here. I'm gonna take a risk. Okay, that was really reckless, but I at least got the goodies. I am gonna need to have a think about how I'm gonna get around that guy, though. Okay, that was inconvenient. So I'm thinking I probably just need to take out a few of these guys. Like, the simpler path is if I just don't take anyone out so there's no bodies to find. That option may be closed off to me because I've got a couple of people patrolling. So my second best is So obviously let them do their thing. It does look like they're kind of hanging around in certain areas for a while, so I will at least try and take out some of the obvious candidates. Of course he's walking away. Oh no! All right. So for some reason that did not count as detected, but it probably would have been better for me to just do a system crash on him, but... And I think the game just crashed. Yep, speaking of system crashes. I should probably do like a graphics benchmark on my computer, because I don't remember Cyberpunk crashing this much, and usually that was a signal there was something wrong with my computer. I don't think it's appropriate to do it right now, though. I also do, I'll confess for Cyberpunk in particular, I do kind of need to learn to live with my mistakes, but I do find for some games, and I think that Cyberpunk would count, there are, oh wow, I just saw a note here, apparently Cyberpunk 2077 Ultimate Edition coming launch date to Nintendo Switch 2. Should probably watch that Switch announcement. But yeah, I've actually noticed there are some games that do a really good job of making failure interesting. And then there are some other games where it just sort of feels like failure is a kind of kick in the nuts. So one game that I thought did failure very well, and Cyberpunk related, for those of you who happen to like, you know, Rain and Neon, Satellite Rain is arguably a more interesting game when you mess up a mission. Often because it just means like there's some combat and you need to move your people around in a certain fashion. Like it just, in general, when stuff goes wrong, you wind up with a set of interesting problems to deal with. Whereas, and like actually this is a tough one to do in strategy games because I think a lot of them are sort of based, they kind of have this assumption that there's going to be some sort of multiplayer component, and so, you know, players are going to feel, they're going to have a certain sense of fairness that isn't present inside of single player experiences. But okay, we'll see if I can get away with this time. Yoink. This isn't going to be an easy one, but I think we can sort it. So I'd rather not toss him in the dumpster if I can avoid it. Now, the real question here is how brave I'm feeling. Pretty brave, it turns out.
Government said call
Point of origin USSR, cereal flour from gene spliced grains, 2.5 tons, synthetic rubber, 310s, Kazakh Sprask, 6 vehicles, Kazakh Zaya, 2 vehicles, Tektronica rocket launchers, 25 units, Rayfield Aeronite, diplomatic vehicle, care of Mikhail Akulov, wood genetically modified, 3 tons. You're a winner. Congratulations, user. Due to your continued use of Kenoshi services, you are entered into a raffle and have been selected for 1 prize. Kenoshi Thermal Sense 9873. Reply to this email in the next 10 minutes to claim your prize. Hurry now or another lucky user will be seeing the world in thermovision instead of you. The Kenoshi team. Important shipment from Michael Sobatko. Sabatka. Yeah, so I think this might be a Wire reference. To Rick Young. So today's update, we got a Soviet freighter in port transporting the usual shit, but there's also a container holding the car of some big shot party member. Be careful with it. No dings, no scratches, no joyrides, nothing, because, and I'm not fucking joking, they'll take me apart piece by piece, so no ripper could ever put me back together again. The car's gonna sit in port for a few days until his Royal Comrade ship comes to pick it up after all the permits and customs and shit clears. Until then, treat it like a grandparent with care, respect, but most importantly, without ever paying it a visit. That is a good little bit. Don't like the looks of this. Okay, I really want to take this thing out, but I think I am reasonably safe. I'm just a little worried if it turns around and sees one of these bodies I've left. Really? I'm just saying I can't. Oh, there we go. So I mean, one option would be to just jump over the edge here, but I don't think that's the done thing. Can probably just climb up the. Yeah. I do want to check one thing. So I know, is Frank Sabatka's the name of the union leader in The Wire? It's not going to be him, but I'm pretty sure it's not going to be Ziggy. That was Nick was the cousin. So it's actually probably better for me to just try and get out the way I came in, now that I'm thinking about it. Like, do I really want to try and go after those 3 guys? Okay. This doesn't give me a 55 or a 7A. But I also don't have a 1C, so... BD, 55... Yeah. And then this won't give me a 7A, damn it! So as much as I'd like to just do a big flying leap to a safe point, probably better if I exercise some caution. I think I'm generally safe as far as the escape route goes, but we do have a couple of machines patrolling. So probably better for me to just let that thing go by. Oops. Yeah, it's nice to try and be cautious and then you accidentally double tap one of the direction buttons and dodge.
Perfect. Silent and effective, just like in the movies. Except we don't make that sort of scratch, but can't have everything, right? Gig closed.
What was the other Regina Jones? Quiet and smooth, that's how it's done. Thanks, V. There's a little token of my appreciation waiting for you at the drop point. Check it out when you get a chance. Okay, I'd like to follow up with that, but I'd like to get my goods first. Well, hi, Johnny. He vanished. Almost like he's a figment of my imagination. Okay. So the hope is still to focus on tasks for Regina Jones. Normally there's a point where it sort of says... Yeah, so there's Wakako, but that's not who I'm looking for. I'm probably getting this wrong. So yeah, we've done everything for Dino. Done everything for Sebastian. Done everything for Mr. Hands. I don't think you get to see Mr. Hands' face until Dogtown, or not Dogtown, Phantom Liberty. You definitely get to go to Regina's apartment at some point. 8 of 23, my god. Alright. Oh no, that's probably because of the cyber psychos. Or maybe not. Either way, we'll do the Merc Trouble mission. If we get another batch of... Oop. Hey V, got some new contracts lined up for you. Do a good job and your name will pop up on the radar of anyone who's anyone. So actually, heading to Merc Trouble might not be a Regina mission, that might be Wakako, but I'm happy either way. One thing I didn't mention earlier about the idea of like a CRPG style. Well, okay, CRPG seems to mean a few different things to people. So I think some people, so I think some people will talk about an ARPG, and for some people that means something like Skyrim or probably like this, and for other people it might mean Diablo, and then for some people they'll say CRPG would be something like Skyrim, or for some people it's something that's like Baldur's Gate. I don't know if there's like a standard meaning for that term, but let's say a Baldur's Gate style. Yeah, this was a Wakako mission.
rescue Lauren Costigan. wife of Bradley Costigan, my client. She is being held captive by the Tiger Claws. If you wish to know more, read the attachment.
SOS Smirk needed. Rescue Lauren Costigan from the Tiger Claws, building in Raymond Street. Olson's cast long shadows, and Bradley Costigan is guilty of many. As a result, he has not only found himself in prison, but also invited trouble into the life of his wife, Lauren Costigan. It's your task to help her. When Bradley landed a spot behind bars, he was contacted by old acquaintances in the Tiger Claws. Shiv some snitches, they said. He said no. Tigers don't like that word. They kidnapped his wife and sent stills as proof. No great surprise, Bradley began to cooperate. But he also remembered me. He's promised payment, and I believe he's desperate enough to be good for it. Many people have already tracked where the stills were taken. Once you have the coordinates, set to work immediately. But one of the things that I would kind of imagine if we did something like a Baldur's Gate style Cyberpunk RPG. First of all, there is a question as to whether that's necessary. Obviously, I mentioned Shadowrun already. But the one thing that I could imagine it doing, having an innovation for, and by the way, so there's a really good reason why CD Projekt Red may not necessarily make that, and that is, I guess prior to Baldur's Gate 3, it was not necessarily clear that that's something that would, that would generate the kind of revenue that that they need to, right? Like once you reach a certain size, you really can't afford to just make any old project. Like, so, EA Originals is an interesting project, and I'm really happy that they're doing it, but they're not all going to be It Takes Two. They're not all going to be, A Way Out. And they need to have like Jedi Fallen Orders and Battlefields and FIFA's, well, I guess not FIFA anymore. It's like EA Sports Football Club or whatever. They need those to keep the lights on. Now maybe the calculus has kind of changed, but even like if you look at Obsidian, right? So they really wanted to continue in the Pillars of Eternity world. It's like Aora or whatever it's called. But Dreadfire did very poorly. And, Tyranny was even a disappointment, although I quite like Tyranny. At least the part I played. I haven't played it to completion. So, it's hard for me to see, even with now the proven success of Baldur's Gate 3, something that was not certain at the time. I think there's a fairly... I love it when the big game companies are suing each other, right? Because you get to hear what they think of things. Like you saw what Microsoft was willing to kind of pay and what their estimate was in terms of how successful Baldur's Gate 3 would be. I mean, they're not dumb. The people at Microsoft are not dumb. Like, I don't think anybody really knew. I don't think anybody really knew that Baldur's Gate would be as successful as it was. But anyway, it's kind of hard to imagine CD Projekt Red sort of pivoting from something that's worked quite well for them. Like, I don't know. I may be in the minority in this. I couldn't get through the first Witcher game. I get that the first Witcher game is a lot like Dragon Age, and Dragon Age, of course, is from BioWare, so it's going to be a bit closer to those original Baldur's Gate games. But Larian, between Divinity Original Sin and Baldur's Gate 3, really seems to have sort of carved out their place in terms of making that type of game. And I think other people should be operating in that space, but it also strikes me as very difficult to try and catch up with what they have been doing. And I suspect lots of people won't. But what I could imagine for something like a more RPG-ish kind of Cyberpunk, I imagine the development on this one would be, you still have the characters. You maybe I'm trying to decide if there would be more or less emphasis on the individual character, because combat is really lethal. But it would be effectively a game where you still see the RPG elements, but I would imagine that they put a pretty heavy emphasis on combat, its lethality, and just kind of the complexity. So you'd see, it's not like it would be the first time that you see sort of the tactical elements like inside of XCOM or something like that, but hopefully its own sort of spin. And I think that would probably seed it a little bit closer to what the tabletop RPG is like. But I mean, the thing is, my expectation would be a game like that probably wouldn't be as successful as this one. So it's not a statement saying that CD Projekt Red should have done this, so much as this is maybe what a game like that would have looked like. This doesn't give me the FF, but I'm okay with that. So I know there's a guy up there, I just don't know. I should probably just plug into these cameras and see what's going on. Probably at the start, though, let's just clean up the riffraff a little bit. All right, so first thing we want to do is identify everybody. This is the level I thought. I seem to remember this one being a little bit of a pain in terms of being sneaky, but I don't think being sneaky is a requirement. Okay, so this is one where a ping will pay off because we can't actually see inside yet. That is a little suspicious that I can see everyone. So that's wonderful if that's true. One thing I am going to do is try and, this is super brazen. Oh no! Grab him, you fool! I tried to do it the nice way. This is how professionals do it, I swear. I want my loot. I think I messed this up. Custom order, Jotaro Shobo. Hey, you ever make any dildos that look like blades? Not sharp or anything, but I want one shaped like a katana. Sent you a dick still and a katana still for ref. What I want comboed. File unavailable. What a shame we can't see that. List of our most popular hobby swords. Weeaboo Naginata. With this in your home arsenal, no one could or would touch you with a 10-foot pole. Cutlord Katana. Buy this and your mother won't dare kick you out of the house. TC Mono Katana for aspiring tigers who are better suited as house cats. Spudslayer Tanto. These potatoes won't peel themselves, samurai. Utaku Tanto perfectly complements the figurines and plushies on your mantle. Heaven Storm. Improvising an already perfect weapon such as the katana is no easy task, but we have succeeded in doing so. The blade of this katana has been enchanted with the souls of lesser demons known as cellar imps. But beware. If you do not cast the right protective barrier when wielding this blade, you may fall victim to the basement dweller curse. Heaven Storm Enchanted Katana, damage type Shameful Memories, unhealable, damage bonus +3 envy damage to enemies with the Basement Dweller curse. Equip restriction, warriors with Emotional Maturity perk cannot wield it. Refuses to eat Shun Ikuda Tatsuyana Yamashita. Find a Ripper with feeding equipment that this bitch refuses to eat, and I'm tired of risking more bite attacks. Let's shove a nutrient tube down her throat and be done with it. And pay or your head will explode. We've read this enough times that I'll leave it aside. This sucks. So we do 1C, 7A, but the 1C here doesn't get me to an FF, and this 1C doesn't get me to an FF. So if we do FF, so this doesn't get me to an E9, so now we do 55, 55. This doesn't get me a 7A. Okay, so none of these seem to do the trick. So next up, so 1C, 7A. Yeah, this works. Wait a minute, I messed this up. Okay, so 1C, 7A. So we still have bad guys to deal with. So I have to take him out, I will, but... Oh, that's... Yeah, well... I think it's probably the nicer thing is to not have that be a non-fatal takedown. Alright, there's more people here than I thought. So this is a little ridiculous, but... Oh. Okay. I made him mad. The main mission is just the vehicle through which I do all my pilfering. Okay, 2 7As, 55, and a 7A. Again, should have thought this through a little bit, but... So, 2 55s again for sure, yeah. I probably should be looking for a cyber deck that will give me more slots, but I've been pretty set on my loadout, not because I prefer it, just because it's been working for me so far, and I haven't really dedicated that much time to thinking about it. On the other hand, because I've already done all the, like, I've got all my apartments, I've got all my vehicles, unless something changes in the game, probably what I should be doing is going through my inventory. So first of all, clearing out all of the stuff that I, that isn't in the...
Something?
I'm getting you out of here.
What?
Your husband hired me. I'll make sure you're safe.
Stupid, fucking worthless piece of shit!
There.
You gotta help me, I'm begging you.
That's why I'm here. Come on now. Let's get up.
But yeah, so now that I have all the...
Down.
Now that I have all the, like, the stuff that I wanted. Your transport is already arranged. Day 1, Lauren arrived. Good physical condition, refuses to talk. Aggressive tendencies, cries often. Day 3, Lauren bit Kenji. Day 6, recorded voice sent with stills to Bradley. Day 10, physical condition worsened, lost weight, much weaker. Day 11, Lauren began refusing food. Day 20, began nutrient drip. Day 25, now willing to eat congee, physical condition average. Day 30, again refuses to eat. But yeah, so one of the things that I should probably do is I've got 3 weapon slots. So one of them I want to be... And by the way, this isn't guaranteed. Like, I could just go for my fists. But the way I've normally built it is 2... two ranged weapons with different ammo types. And this really feels like it should be a way to sneak into the building. And then 1 melee.
Worked out this time. Don't get used to it. Hey there. Is there someone who can help you?
My mom?
Tell her to lay low somewhere. They'll be looking for your family and friends. You understand?
Yeah. What about Brad?
Just focus on yourself right now. Hey, see that car? It'll take you someplace safe.
Thank you.
Look out for yourself.
All right, I'll just wait for the...
Lauren is secure. I'm informing Bradley now. Thank you for your help. Contract closed.
So I do want to go back to the Regina. Do want to go back to the Regina missions now. Just give me a second here. For those of you who are looking to buy some cheap viewers, the window has closed. But yeah, so God, what was I saying? What I'd kind of like to do here, so just as an example, under probably my backpack's the better option here. So if we do a sort by type, so once I clear out duplicates, right? So we've got the Nekomata, excuse me. So one's a tier 5, one's a tier 5 plus. So clearly here we get rid of the tier 5. Actually, let's just do this now because I don't like 254,000. I think this is higher. This is more than I've needed for any single purchase. For any of the stuff that I've been working on. So we've got the Ashura, the Nekomata, the Grad, Achilles, or Copperhead. Okay, so we've got 2 Copperheads here. This is a 2+, so clearly we shard that. Sidewinder, 2 Umbras. Both are tier 5s. It's actually first thing I should do. Any of the greens are an easy one to remove. Unless it's like iconic, obviously. That's different. Okay, so Copperhead, Sidewinder, Umbra, Sune, QB, Ajax, Nawaki. So, like, what I would want to do here is I would need to decide when it comes to the, doesn't even say ammo types here. I mean, there's an icon for it, but this has got the rifle ammo. This will be the same as the pistol. So I should pick, do I care more about the submachine gun? Do I care more about the pistol? I don't think I've committed myself too far down the skill trees. But right now, I've just kind of gone for a sort of a subset of features, you know, at the time were useful for me. I, in most games, like doing snipers, but the fact of the matter is that, you know, my stealth hasn't been all that impressive this time around, but for the most part, I prefer sort of sneaking around the level. So any combat that I wind up in is usually going to be the product of someone noticing me and me having to react really quickly. So that tends to imply, you know, a pistol or a machine gun. And then for those cases where I need something a little bit more long range, an assault rifle makes a bit more sense just because it has that level of versatility. Whereas if I sort of knew that I'd be picking people off at range, then something like the sniper rifle and the precision rifle would make a bit more sense. So yeah, making a decision between those two and then sort of looking at some trade-offs between, okay, power, rate of fire, you know, how often am I going to be needing to reload these things? I'd like to actually have a proper think about what weapon has the characteristics that I'm most interested in. And then from there, using all of these components that I've been hoarding to actually make sort of the best version of that weapon and like bother to work out all the mods and things like that. Because I've just largely been, it's a little bit like how I play Phantom Brigade. I've largely just been slapping together all of the different pieces that I've gathered over time. So that's a ++. So it feels a little bad to do that because of course this has only 2 mod slots, but I'm trying to focus on the highest tier that I can get for starters. And then we can think about next steps. The other hope too is once I've actually sort of settled on a specific weapon type, this will allow me to sort of drop all these mods that are accumulating in my inventory. Okay, so 2 Carnage, 1 5, 1 5++. Missed a purple. I can't really see myself using a shotgun in this case, but you never know. ++. I guess I'd hang on to this one because it's got more mods. Okay, another one that I should have got rid of. Sorry, I realize this is probably not the most interesting thing to be watching right now, but we're almost done. Okay. I do also have the option of going for a revolver instead of a pistol, but I don't know. Feels like the pistol is the more appropriate option. I don't actually see myself using any of these bladed weapons, but I have the option. These are both ++, but this has more mod slots. Not sure how I feel about the well, we've got some duplicates, so that gives me something to start with. Isn't this the jacket I'm already wearing? No. I'm wearing the sophisticated two-piece with custom trim. How could I have gotten confused about that? You know what? I think I'll actually probably put on the simple office pants. I'll maybe do like a comparison, but I don't think I need to mess around with these. I did try to slim this down to 3 specimens of each type, which we've mostly held to. All right, so my options. This is what I had before. Not bad. These work. It was a little more than I'd like. It would be kind of nice if you could get like a preview of what it looked like, but yeah, I can live with this getup. What is this thing anyway? Oh, that's right, my faceplate. Cool. The other thing that I forgot to mention, so in addition to wanting to play around with the different sort of weapon, or like the weapons that I have, I should also be upgrading my cyberware. I'm also kind of hoping that we get a little bit zippier on the frame rate. Actually, here's what I'm going to try. So we zoom in and give this a little time. All right, so this should cause the main game to sort of slow down. Or not. All right, I think I'll just live with it. This isn't terrible, I just know it could be a little bit better. Oops. All right. Oh, yes, this one.
So, looks like we found the last honest cop in this city. Her name's Anna Hamill, and whatever she's investigating, it's made her a lot of enemies. She'd do best to cut it out, if you catch my drift. Okay, look, I know how it sounds, but somebody would have taken this gig anyway, right? I don't know. Maybe there's an angle you can play here. Either way, info's attached.
I felt like this one was a fairly earlier one, but it might just be this might just be a reflection of how I played the first time around. All right, Gun for Hire. Force Anna Hamill to drop the police investigation. Kabuki Market. Anna Hamill is a blue-blooded cop through and through, the kind that you'd expect to see in some NCPD promo. Beautiful, smart, honest to a fault. In other words, a really bad fit for Night City. Her NCPD colleagues are another story. They all have back problems from sitting on fat wallets. The current case Hamill's working on has them all breaking out in hives. She's digging into the smuggling racket in the Kabuki market, which, if she makes any real headway, means bad biz for her cop buddy finances. They want someone from outside the precinct to nip this thing in the bud. Normally that's where I'd leave it, but I want to add one more thing. I kind of feel bad for the girl. I'd rather she not flatline if you can avoid it. Convince her to skip town or drop the case and make a career change at least.
When's the next delivery?
What are these? Garbage shrimp?
What do you expect? This is Kabuki, not North Oak.
What you know about Kabuki, dirty nomad?
Come on, I don't need this. Just toss in an anti-whiff tablet for the smell.
50% off, or I will not buy.
Hey, and they call nomads thieves.
What am I, a bank?
Come on. Can't make change.
Sounds like your problem, not mine.
Hey, do I know you?
I don't even remember the stall that I found out about Anna Hamill in.
Hey there, baby. I can give you what no brain dance ever could.
Seen her around?
Depends. You're a cop?
Nope. The lady I'm looking for is...
That tooth-faced bitch. You want a confession out of me? It's gonna cost you. I don't do nothing for free.
No way.
Whatever. Know where to find me.
Know this woman? 30-something, slightly shorter than yourself. Heard she comes around here a lot.
This is Kabuki. We get a lot of people.
And smartasses? A lot of them, too?
Yeah, smartasses too.
Smartasses who could recognize a cop's face? So how about it? You know her?
I might. Depends on how much you'll be spending on your, groceries today.
Not getting any eddies out of me.
Dude, whatever then.
Funny thing is,
I'm ready. You ready?
I don't remember talking to any of these people.
What's up? one. You lost, honey?
I thought there was a free
¿Qué quieres?
exchange, but I could be wrong. Clearly I can afford it, just I'm pretty sure there are oops. I don't think it took me buying
I'm ready.
food, but
You ready?
nope.
You ever seen this woman?
I sell food and I just want to keep selling food. That is all I will say.
This shrimp fresh.
They just arrived, straight from the best aqua farm in Night City.
Aqua farm.
Where do you think? From Pacifica? That trash from the sea no good. Make you sick.
Stomach's rumbling. Let's see what you got.
Oh,
There you go, wontons. So one thing I'll say is the sushi vendor, it did seem that there was like a wait to actually be able to interact, but
Oh, yeah.
You know her?
Wait. I do know you. You're that fixer fairy, making waves.
Do what I can.
This woman, she knows how to ruffle feathers. But she's a good person. That clear?
She doesn't step on a ripper's toes?
My business ain't your concern. She's staying in the hotel, 3rd floor, room 303. She's a good person.
you're sure she's a good person? All right.
Looking for a change.
Come on then. Time to tinker.
So I'm curious if I can upgrade something like the Gorilla Arms or the ballistic coprocessor. Oh wow! Apparently we already went for a big cyber deck. Okay. Looks like I'm in luck. So my technical ability is currently the highest. It's funny, I wouldn't have normally thought that I would want to do the electrifying gorilla arms. I probably would have just wanted to do a standard one. Faster aim speed versus more health and melee damage resistance. Yeah, electrifying gorilla arms actually feels like a slightly more appropriate choice here. And we'll sell that. So at the moment, I'm kind of looking for the improvements. So this is the Kuroshi Cockatrice Optics. So apparently we can already upgrade this to... Oh yes, it's also iconic, so I probably wouldn't want to be... Let's just keep going then. More! So we can get rid of these. Doomsayer, huh? Better optical zoom, better headshot versus... Okay, body attune. Yeah, I should probably take a look at the... It's really hard not to... Yeah, I'm going to resist the urge to go too crazy on some of this stuff. I figure at a minimum I can just upgrade the level of the existing stuff that I'm working with. So micro rotors doesn't seem like... Oh no, here we go. So I won't worry about the upgrades or anything like that. I figure we can just do the basics of... Wait a minute. I've got more than one micro rotors. It's kind of embarrassing. I think I'm going to try to avoid selling the stuff that I already have for now. But yeah, essentially anything that I can level up to reinforce tendons. Yeah, we'll just... There'll clearly be some more work I need to do in terms of the existing upgrades, but I don't want to commit too much to the upgrades for the simple reason that I haven't actually put any thought into the specific choices in terms of the cyberware that I've gone for. Sometimes these have been like a product of convenience. So I don't necessarily want to go all the way in terms of upgrades. The NetDriver Mark 1, that I'll probably upgrade. In fact, let's just... That is really expensive. Perhaps unsurprisingly, this stuff is too expensive. Oh, no, this one will work. Okay, most of the stuff's at least iconic now. I do wonder if they've changed the way some of the cyberware works in this, just because I remember it used to be a bit of a pain to... Hell, I'm paying. I gotta do it. I remember I used to kind of have to go all over the city to try and find the iconic versions of things I wanted to do. All right. I'm doubtful that I'm going to be able to get the #1 spot, but I'm probably going to feel that way about every run until I get it, so... Oh, crap. Nice. Oh, come on. Actually, isn't the glitch supposed to protect me from that? Anyways, doesn't matter. That was a terrible showing. We will now return to the mission.
Not one more fucking step! Who put out the hit? Give me a name!
Anna, drop this investigation. It's in your best interest.
That a threat? I'd remind you, you're the one in the fucking crosshairs.
Hey, easy. I just want to help.
Help? Phonic implant must be fried. I think you meant intimidate.
Just to end your investigation. Really pissed off the wrong people.
Which people? Tell me what fucking people!
Your buddies at the NCPD set you up.
Fucking! I fucking knew it! Robert Kowalski and Bill Adams! Motherfuckers!
Let it go. It's not worth it.
Yeah. Know what? I'm not letting scumbags get me killed! Fuck them! Fuck this job! Fuck this city!
So, Anna, what's next for you?
What? We tunes all of a sudden? The hell do you care? I dropped the case like you wanted. You can fuck off, Merc.
Well, I'm gonna loot your apartment for that rudeness.
We leave you to your business, you leave us to ours.
The guy we talked about, John Casey, to Anna Hamill. Hey, I'm writing you regarding that guy we talked about at the market. According to our records, his name is Finn Gerstat, known around town as Fingers. Real scuzzbag type, few screws loose. The uncle you never want to leave the kids with, scrawny, unkempt, balding, dried out, like a chili left in the sun. He looks like a lizard suffering crack withdrawal. His sense of style says something between everyone look at me and I'm a teenage girl in a drunk 40-year-old bum's body, i.e. colorful, flamboyant, disturbing. Now, for the interesting stuff. This creature is an established ripper in the sex biz circles, but really these fingers extend from petty thieves to off-the-books hustle to street orphans. Most importantly, you can never tell where the cyberware comes from exactly, but it has to have a permanent source. There's a good chance he has his fingers, okay, sorry about that one, in what's happening around Kabuki Market. As you suspected, slugs like him fuel the smuggle racket. And listen, this is really all I can do. I'm already risking a lot getting this info out to you. Please be careful. I'm serious, okay? The atmosphere at the precinct is getting really shady these days. And I'm out. Masato Tanaka to Anna Hamill. Anna, like in the subject, I thought I could do this, but I really, really can't. I could try to think of some inspired reason to back out of this, but it'd be a waste of your time and mind. I'm a coward, and I know it. I won't testify. I'm sorry. Masato, please think this through. We're so close now. We have a real chance to lock these bastards behind bars. Your safety is in my hands. You're not in this alone, and I'm telling you, this is zero risk for you. Do you really want them to keep on like this when we have something we can do about it? Hope to hear from you soon. was actually really intrigued by how this set the tone for me at the very start when I played that earlier on. Now, I'm considerably more jaded about Night City, so it's like, oh yeah, just another corruption story. What else is new, right? But it is one that I always want to try and resolve peacefully if I can. Okay, 1C 55 BD 55 7A. Okay. Funny thing is, when I just kind of wing it, it never really seems to be that much worse. All right, room 201, Manami Nose, reservation one night, check out tomorrow. Room 202, Wilson family, couple with child, upcoming week already paid, 203 available. 204, Morton Olson, reserved 4 nights, paid for 3, will be removed if payment not received today, annoying shit. 205 available, 206 available, 301 available, 302 occupied, do not disturb. 303 Anna, last name not given, extended reservation 1 month, do not disturb. 304 available. 305 Anthony Suzuki, reservation 3 nights paid. 306 Sam Yue, ongoing reservation, plays regularly, do not disturb. Hey, got a problem? If you read through the above, it's too late. Your neural processor has been infected. Send this message to 3 other people immediately, or in 7 days you'll go cyber psycho. Don't believe me? Good, because this is another chain email. Send me 5,000 euro dollars to the attached account, or I'll melt your skull sponge. Do you believe me now? If you do, you're a moron. Open your eyes, Choom. Look around. World as we know it, one big lie. Corporations, the media, politicians, they're all pulling the wool over your eyes 24/7. They want us to believe we live the best lives in all possible worlds. Want to know the truth? Night City's a fucking dystopian cesspool. The 20th century's worst fever-dream nightmares have come true before our very eyes, yet we remain blind. We're born into a dystopia, are utterly incapable of imagining life any other way. The porno billboards accost us on all sides. The synth shit we eat slowly melts us from within, and we continue paying out the ass for the privilege. You're sick. Want the cure? Listen to Good Doc Paradox. And please do something for Morton Olson. Not to be a pain, but I am paying for a room and I expect a certain standard of comfort and service. I understand there's nothing you can do about all the noise from the market. I can live with having to keep my windows closed, but I'm disappointed by your lack of willingness to keep control of your guests, especially that woman in 203. I don't know if a louder person exists on this earth. She's constantly talking, even at the wee hours of the night, and clearly doesn't hold an ounce of decency towards her neighbors. My guess is she's a junkie and is too skezzed out of her mind to get a wink of sleep herself, not to mention all the undesirables who appear to keep visiting her room. I mean no disrespect, but please do your jobs. So I imagine this is probably an earlier iteration of the game, but this would have been where you have like one of your alternative paths to the investigation. But I think because it sort of directs you to the market and to talking to people, there isn't really a reason to get to that. There isn't really a reason to get back to the to that desk, or you don't really know to go there.
V of the silver tongue, eh? Glad we got it all worked out. Contract closed.
How are we doing for time? I'm kind of at time here. I think probably we'll... Oop. Behold my electric abilities. I think I'll probably wrap it up here, especially because apparently my frame rate just took a drop. All right, that's better. But yeah, I don't know. We're at 3 hours. That seems like a good place to wrap it up. So overall plans for Cyberpunk, and I'll kind of do the overall plans for the week. So we're not that far away from the next gig, so I will I'll head out there. I might stop by the AutoFixer terminal just to make sure that I don't have any new cars, but I think we're good to go there. But this should hopefully finish me off for Regina. I do not know why it records so many gigs for her. It could be that there's actually that many to go through, but I have a feeling that probably there's something else going on. Well, actually, no, that would be another one for her, so Okay. Anyways, I don't mind doing a few more. If we get another batch, maybe we'll move on. I can definitely do more for Wakako. But essentially the idea here is just I'd like to follow up on what I can. And if it sort of feels like we're dragging a little bit in terms of doing some of the gigs, we can always move on to some extra things. But we are short of money. And I did get a nice batch of upgrades for my cyberware, but clearly my cap is now... like my cap can go higher. And I have a little bit more variety in terms of different systems. So like I feel like I should probably be having a bit of a think in terms of what kind of cyberware I want. And then upgrading what I think is most important. And then on top of all of that, I still have my plans for my my various weapons. So there's no shortage of things for me to spend money on, and the gigs are a nice way of sort of equipping myself. Anyway, thank you everybody for watching. Overall plans for the week. So I do need to get a little bit better, both in terms of my sleeping habits as well as starting the stream on time. I know that's kind of at this point, this is like a perennial struggle, but I do plan eventually to come up with a better balance. But I believe next week we're in pretty good shape. So Monday and Wednesday I'll probably be doing Doom Eternal. Friday I will be back with Cyberpunk. Obviously, if people have different opinions in terms of things that are working for you, things that aren't, I'm happy to adjust. But I think we're getting close to the end of Doom Eternal, so I can maybe move into Ace Attorney or some of the other things that I was planning. But next week should be just a standard Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. The week following, I think there is a difference. In fact, I have a second here, so I can just double check the plans. Okay, so it's May. So April should be the standard. So the week after next, there will be a Monday stream. Wednesday, I believe, should be the local game dev meetup. And then that Friday and Monday are holidays. So Good Friday and Easter Monday, I believe I have off. My usual rule has been to take holidays off so it doesn't feel like streaming days are work days. But if I do have an opportunity to, like if I just feel like streaming or something like that, I'll do it. I always I've loosened that rule to I reserve the option of streaming if I feel up to it. So next week, full stream. Week following, there will be I'll be skipping basically 3 streams in a row, and then on the Wednesday and Friday, we should be back to the normal pattern, and then for the end of the month, we should be good to go. The other thing I wanted to mention, is debating a little bit about some future games. I don't need answers to this right now, but I'm a little curious. I was thinking about some of the older games that we have talked about previously. So I'm a little interested in Quake 2 because I did do the original Quake. I don't recall if I've ever done Half-Life on stream, but I thought that might be another interesting one, which would of course also mean Half-Life 2. I should mention that I've never played the episodes of Half-Life 2, so I haven't seen Half-Life Episode 1 or Half-Life Episode 2. What else? There are a couple other older ones that I was thinking of. I don't need to think about them right now. But if there is an appeal to some of these older games, I'm not opposed to sort of throwing those into the mix. They're not ones that I necessarily had a plan for, but there seemed to be something that people got out of them. In fact, I could do even more of the Quake series. So Quake 3, I think, was just sort of it was like a deathmatch game, and they just set you up with bots. But, I mean, it might be interesting to try and go through. And then Quake 4, I think Quake 4 is like a follow-on from Quake 2, so that might be interesting just to see it. But even too, like doing some of the Doom games. So from what I understand, Doom 3 is intended to be a little bit more of sort of a horror style game. And it's also kind of interesting because I think it was the last one that had the id Tech engine open sourced for it. So it's like GPL. I think you need to sort of reveal all of the source for it, but it's one where I think if you're inclined to, it's one where you can sort of see how everything's working in the background. Actually, I had a thought about that, but anyways, I can save that for a separate conversation. But yeah, if there's interest in that sort of stuff, I am open to trying some different things. But in terms of stuff that I've started, we've done a little bit of Ace Attorney, and it would be nice to get through that. And then I have a couple of things I've been sitting on in the background, which I think, given enough time, I can start folding those into the overall plan. And if there's some interest in me doing some more of the Weather Factory stuff, I can definitely return to that. But that's some stuff I've been thinking about in terms of how to spend my time in future streams. If those sound interesting, or if those sound not interesting, I am happy to adjust accordingly. Now, Prosciutto Fist is playing Atomfall. I don't know much about Atomfall, but I do like hosting Pro, because I know she's looking to try and build her community. And I know a few of you have actually become quite regular viewers. So she is a good choice. Also, Prosciutto Fist is just a fun name. So I will leave you in her capable hands. Thank you everybody for hanging out. Just a reminder too, Revive Snow is stopping by, who is somebody I definitely recommend following and watching. Much better at variety than I am. And then I'll also mention, I don't normally like calling out lurkers like this, but I thought I saw Vesper Fortune VT also in the chat, so another person that you can check out and follow. I foolishly did not. I did the raid before doing those proper. Shout out commands, but a couple people that you can check out. Anyways, enjoy Pro Stream. I'm gonna, I don't know, make something of my evening, and I will see you all on Monday. Take care.